All right, what's up? What's good, everyone? So this is a bit of a kind of a random-ish Let's Talk. There isn't really news or a launch trailer or any like concrete evidence of news, but there was an interview. So let's start off with Elden Ring came out this year, 2022, and back in February, and there was a lot of story that was it felt like it was missing to me. It really felt like there was, like we could get like a whole prequel expansion pack chapter for Elden Ring, and there would be a lot of stuff there just to work off from that we could run through, like the wars before, that Queen America and all that stuff was doing. So when I heard this, that From Software's next game is in final stages of development, got me thinking maybe they were working on an expansion pack. They made a little bit too much content and they were just like, well, Elden Ring sold so well. Let's just make a full on, let's just make a full on prequel to game of it. So let's actually go into the real thing. So this is the Japanese. It's all in Japanese. The original main thing. This is Miyazaki, the lead head of From Software that made Elden Ring. Basically what it is, I'd say. So this is translated using basically Google Translate. From Japanese to English. From Software says, if you're serious about making an interesting game, that's fine. An interview with Hidetaka Miyazaki of what we aimed for with Elden Ring and a unique development system. So again, this might be a little like the wording on stuff might be a little bit weird because this is a Google Translate. But let's just check and see if we can find anything in this. So they've worked on Dark Souls, Bloodborne, Sekiro, on all the different systems. February they launched Elden Ring. Shipped 12 million units worldwide, 100 units in Japan within a month of its release. Became a big hit that exceeded 10,000 copies. The number of people who touched the title company will spread further. Yes. So it's been more than 3 months since the release of Elden Ring, and some players I can't highlight over top of this because it's going to make maybe I can. Some players have already finished playing, but how is the response? Miyazaki says, "I feel that it's bigger than our previous titles, or that we have." See, it's getting in the way. That we have received various responses from a wide range of people. There are pros and cons, but I would like to take it firmly and use it as food for thought, really, for the future. Get the impression Elden Ring is widely played by players other than existing Souls fans, reflected in both terms of sales and how the buzz on social media, I do believe, SNS. Yes, as a member of the production team, I am very grateful. But why this happened this time, to be honest, I don't really understand that. I think there are some issues, such as collaboration with George R. Martin and improving the sense of scale by adopting an open field, but I haven't been able to analyze them clearly yet. So this man has been hard at work on making something brand new, along with the team. So yeah, this is more. There's a lot of evidence already being shown that they might be working on something big. Scale of Elden Ring surprised me as a player. Various elements. Yeah, there are several. Okay, Miyazaki. Back to Miyazaki. There are several, but one was to create a title that can only be achieved by accumulating them based on the technology and how we cultivated in the Soul series. When I start making a game, I think about what is the special experience of this game. For example, in Sekiro, it was the excitement of new swashbuckler who adopted playing. Okay. But in Elden Ring, it was a feeling of scale beyond the stack. Again, it's Google translation, so we'll take what we can get out. Basically, like Sekiro was definitely, Sekiro's gameplay was definitely a step in a different direction for them. It wasn't all about customization. It was more about learning mechanics, where Dark Souls games are all about customizing a character, getting in there, getting your class, getting your weapons, figuring out your routine for how you're going to use your weapons versus the boss fights, and then figuring out the boss fights, and then getting good and all that stuff. So it's two very different approaches to game design on both of that, but they're both linear. Elden Ring, on the other hand, is a open world game, and it's got all the creative freedom that you want in there of all the different customization options. But again, the map is way bigger. There's way more zones to cover. There's you can go wherever you want, whenever you want. So that's a very different game design. I've been saying this since the game launched. So continue the dark. So it was a title because you continue the Dark Souls series. At least in our sense of scale, it would have been impossible to make Elden Ring from scratch. The other is degree of freedom and adventure that presuppose such a sense of scale. I think this was a major factor in adopting the open field. So he wanted to basically go something even bigger than he had ever done before. How do we do that? You can only go so big with linear maps. You can only loop around the map so many times until it's like, let's just go open world with this thing. I get where they were coming from. It was a very bold decision to do that because there's a lot of people who like linear games that don't like open world games and vice versa. So yeah, that was a big risk almost in a sense. I really enjoy. Also, like, kind of a big risk too is having a jump button. Even it's like that. The jump button transforms the way that you get around the map. It transforms the boss fights. You can jump over an attack instead of just dodge rolling or parrying or whatever, block parrying and everything. So anyway, I really enjoyed the freedom of role playing. I spent a lot of time sleeping and playing every day. Get out of the way. So the loss after ending was amazing. Everyone around me, including myself, says there are so many places to adventure that even you haven't started Elden Ring, so you're so addicted. Yeah, very happy to hear such a story. It's cool that that's what they were going for, more of the adventure and less of the just like, oh, I just beat this. I definitely feel like there was the best of both worlds there, though. Like, as soon as you beat a boss fight, you're like, unless you scrub it out with with the co-op stuff. Like I said, if you do Elden Ring completely solo, I did it myself completely solo, and yeah, just like figuring out like game mechanics of like, oh, if I take this game mechanic into the fight, I can make this fight a little bit easier. Boom, okay, now I figured out the puzzle of the fight and all that. It's a story of stacking, but in fact, Elden Ring strongly felt a sense of combination as the genealogy of Dark Souls. Well, that's not often the case. We do not set such a hurdle, whether it's sales or evaluation. Okay. That kind of thing tends to be an impurity in our game production, isn't it? If you try to overcome the hurdles, so you have to be conservative. So, of course, there are minimum line for the project, and from that point onward, we prioritize what we want to create. Whether it was Sekiro or Elden Ring, it was a rather risky project at the beginning. Yeah, yeah. Because Sekiro, like I said, you're taking away all customization. Elden Ring, you're given even more customization because you can go wherever you want to. Fair point. I think it was a challenging title. If 2 comes out, it may be a hot seller, but from software now, it doesn't do much like making a sequel by taking advantage of the name Dark Souls Continue, but it was a break. That is a case-by-case basis. There are merits to both taking over the numbering and creating a new work with a new title. So I would like to select as appropriate. So it really depends on what the end project is. So to me, that's telling me that like Miyazaki really doesn't like to label the game as like, this is a Dark Souls, this is an Elden Ring, this is a Bloodborne or whatever, until they get most of the project done, which is kind of cool. I think that's kind of good. Like, he has a sense of where he wants the storylines to go and everything, and that's the one thing I always say about From Software games. Probably the story is the one thing that kind of lacks the most, except for something like a Bloodborne, which is probably one of the I think Bloodborne is probably the top tier of their storytelling. Elden Ring comes maybe second, and then maybe the Soul series third, and then Sekiro fourth. That's just kind of that's the way I look at it. Easily, I think Bloodborne is like the top one. Everybody mostly agrees with Bloodborne being like, that is their pinnacle of storytelling that they've done. It's better to make it a sequel in terms of sale. That's right. The deciding factor for the choice I made earlier. is, after all, whether we want to make it. Is that what we are? Well, I'm not very aware. um, at the time of the interview with Sekiro, at the time of the interview with Sekiro in 2018, it was said that 3.5 lines were in operation in house at that time. Two of them were unpublished related article. One of the unpublished ones was Elden Ring, but is the other one still under development? Yes, development is also in the final stages. So basically, they had what this is saying is 3.5 development teams in operation in house of From Software working on 3 different projects. Well, and then you have like one smaller team that's helping out operations. Probably so 3.5. I would say that probably that half development team is most likely a networking team, or it could also be a testers team because they really need a lot of game testers doing a bunch of different Elden Ring's coming out on everything, so you have to have a lot of systems tested, and you have to have a lot of hours in to get all the testing done the correct way to make sure it runs proper and everything. So 3 projects in development, 3 main development teams, all in house. Again, that could very well be like an Elden Ring prequel if they know that they've got so much story here, and if they have a bunch of runoff, or if they're making DLC and the runoff from the main game went off into that. I mean, hell, one of those projects could be a Bloodborne remaster or a Bloodborne 2 or something. It very well could be. We don't know. And hopefully it doesn't get leaked. Hopefully the mystery and the excitement around it stays until they actually are ready to show it, because that's one of the worst things ever is when they're working so tirelessly and then it gets leaked. Let's keep going here. Been a long time. I'd like to ask you again about the current development system from software. As I answered in some interview, I was able to create a title with a sense of scale in Elden Ring because of the growth of human resources in the company. But from now on, I think we will often lead the project to them. In fact, there are several titles directed by people other than me, and it's time to increase the number of developers. So they are basically hiring and building up their development studios bigger. So this could also be like increase the number of developers. It could well. I think we can show you another direction of another color from software. Please look forward to it. Okay, so instead of it just being the dark nitty gritty, maybe they do something. Armored Core could come back. It very well could be. That's a little more of like a military, mechs and all that stuff. So it's way more. It's not just like gothic nightmare wasteland. It'd be more military, tech and future advanced warfare. Cool, either which way. But also the increase the number of developers. Now that could be mocap, that could be art design, that could be sound design, that could be localization, that could be a whole bunch of different things. Everybody's considered a developer. Even testers are technically considered developers. So that could be also increasing the number of game testers to make sure that there's not so many bugs or whatever. But that's one thing with From Software games. They do usually come out pretty solid. And I do believe going forward that they're probably going to cut back the system, like the PS4 and the Xbox One. I think on the next From Software games are probably going to be cut off, because at this point people really need to be going on to the next generation of consoles, just because that's where the game engines are at. They need the more system resources. They need more power from the hardware, so the game engines ain't choking itself with data streams basically. To what extent does Miyazaki-san see a direction title of another person? It's different if you can consult with me, but as the president, I only make a minimum amount of confirmation. I try not to look too much. I'm essentially a director, so when I touch a title under development, I think about it and want to say it. But in that case, I'm not the director. I'm not the subject of the vision, and I can't take the responsibility to the end. So I feel that extra talk will have a lot of negative effects on the game and the project. Right. It's so him being a game director, the director has the vision for what he wants everything, how the people to act, how the environment should be looking, how, the feel of the environments, also the feel of the characters that are in the world of its, everything that's going on virtually in that space. the director is shaping and making their vision into that virtual space. Um, so is Miyazaki focusing on your own direction title? That's right. I will continue to direct it. Okay, so one of the next games that's coming out from Software is going to be something that Miyazaki is hands on with, working on himself. Again, that could be an Elden Ring prequel story. That could be a Bloodborne remaster, like he's going through, and maybe hell, it could even be a Bloodborne. I wouldn't. I really wouldn't want to say a Bloodborne remake because I wouldn't want to see anything changed with Bloodborne. But I think, well, okay. In all honesty, if they were going to do a Bloodborne remaster, they would hand it off to another team just to just to bring it up to speed of modern day. No, like make it 60 FPS and make it 4K and add DualSense and possibly ray tracing and all that stuff. Um, but if they were to make like a Bloodborne 2, then yes, I could see Miyazaki being fully on, focused on directing that title or something. Um, as a player, I don't hear much about him continuing to direct even after he became president. Originally, I wanted to be a director, and after all, the game production site is the most fun. Yeah, because then you get to be the most creative. The president of the company is just signing deals and like, okay, we have the funding to make this game happen. Now, director, go and make the thing happen. Director and team, I should say, go make the thing happen. Even so, I'm the president because it's convenient for the company from Software, but well, I want to give in to the kindness of the people around me and skip as much as possible. No, please talk with the president this time. I don't know if okay, so there aren't many careers on the table. We don't promote using the name value of the title. When we look at it from the outside, it looks like a mysterious group of craftsmen. I don't know if the word craftsman is appropriate, but I want to be a company that only needs to make interesting games seriously. Ideally, for example, in an environment where people who are just serious about making interesting games can be found, evaluated, and have a chance without being bothered by internal politics or trivial matters. Office politics, basically. No experience. Miyazaki himself has no experience in the game industry, enjoying the company halfway through, directing hit works one after another and becoming president. So I understand that there is a climate for such opportunities. However, I'm sorry, but when it comes to manufacturers that are being pulled by those, okay, I definitely deny that. Oh, okay. So yeah, like the interviewers kind of just going on a bit of a rant of being like, well, when somebody gets up to being a president, they don't work on games anymore. That's what I'm getting from this. Definitely deny that. I myself am a person who loves game production and wants to immerse himself in it, but that's why I'm careful not to assume that kind of feeling. Yeah, and basically told him off. What I was really getting into though was I was trying to find in this interview about what their next project could be. There is one point in recent years have been trying to improve salary treatment of employees. In particular, in this term, we plan to increase the bonus standard by January. Oh, okay. So everybody who worked on Elden Ring is getting a bonus. That's good. In addition to these, there are also a mechanism called a settlement bonus. Yeah. That is a lot of business deal stuff. That's cool. So Miyazaki is like, okay, developers, you guys did very good at making Elden Ring a huge success. So I'm gonna get you paid more. That's awesome. Miyazaki being a good guy. For example, since there was Elden Ring in the previous term, it is basically 4 months worth and more for the core members of the project. Cool. This is my policy as a director rather than from software, but I'm simulation of collaboration, which is good. Let's see here. Let's go through. So he's talking about working. I am fast forwarding to the interview a little bit. Let's see, individual members of the team. Okay, this is interesting. Please tell us about your goals as a director. One combination of Elden Ring once combination of Elden Ring has been completed, Is there anything you would like to do or interested in the future? So Miyazaki saying, as a director, the next title is already in motion, so I'd like to avoid spoilers there. In the medium to long term, I would like to work on a fantasy with a higher degree of abstraction than past works. Not quite sure what he's going for, like abstraction. I wonder if abstract gothic. I'm stretching for Bloodborne, but I mean, possibly. Is a degree of abstraction. I don't get the image for a moment though. In the process of making fantasy titles for action RPGs, including Elden Ring, fantasy ideas and images that are not suitable for that format continue to accommodate, and somewhere they are split out together. I want to. Okay, so something that a genre that really isn't, because genres are normally just fantasy driven, and it seems like he wants to take something that's outside of kind of the our RPGs are normally fantasy, like Final Fantasy is an RPG. So take something that is just outside of the fantasy realm and bring it into the RPG landscape. That could be cool. Like, what if they do like a damn shooter that's an RPG? I mean, that'd be pretty different. It's been action RPG format for a long time. So is there, or a survival RPG, like From Software doing a straight up survival game? With that system and everything. Oh, looks like it will be my hobby. Hobby Deracine. So this was Deracine was a From Software VR title. I've not actually picked it up or played it or anything, but it was a VR title. Definitely felt very From Software. It was I can't remember if it was made in house from Software, but definitely like him doing so. Maybe that's what he's actually talking about. Is like an RPG, abstract RPG inside of a VR space. That would be again something very cool and very pushing the limits of what we've seen in VR. So like the closest thing that I can think of that would be the Walking Dead game there that you ran around the city collecting stuff and whatnot. Deracine is a title that I have a deep feeling for, so I would be grateful if you could say that. Thank you. Well, if I run for a hobby, I think it would be quite delicate as a business. So lastly, I would like to ask you, Elden Ring is also a paragraph and what will happen to the development in the future. First of all, the updates of Elden Ring will continue in the future. Also, as I've talked about, in addition to the titles I direct myself, I'm developing multiple titles by directors who aren't me, but I'm not at the stage where I can talk about them in detail. I'm sorry, but I hope you have a little more we're looking for the announcement of new information. I think this is right here. The update of Elden Ring will continue in the future. Yeah, we're definitely seeing DLC. That's kind of a like, yes, we are doing DLC. And I don't know, man. If he's working on multiple projects and everything, and then he's like working on one main project, and he's saying that Elden Ring isn't finished yet, I think we may end up seeing a prequel to Elden Ring of like showing all the war stuff, because it just seemed really weird that like Bloodborne has so much lore that is just like boom right there in the game, and you get so much when you're reading the descriptions on all the items and the clothing items and weapons and this and that and the other thing. You get so much lore thrown at you through all that stuff, and it just feels like there's so much lore that we just have no idea any imagery or anything on yet, that is missing from Elden Ring. And that's just one of those weird, like, also from Dark Souls games too, they do the same thing where it's like they're really building the whole world around you, like that mountain range over there that you can't go to but you can see it. Well, here's a description of like what it is and what's there and who's there, the Valley of the Giants and this and that and the other thing. So yeah, I know I feel like Elden Ring could very easily have a prequel happening, like a full-on game that is a prequel to it. So it's like, did you like Elden Ring? Well, check this out. Maybe Game Awards we might actually end up seeing it. So where it was, like I said, it started out as just a expansion pack and they just had too much content, so they're like, screw it, let's just make it into a full-on the prequel title. You know, so it would be a re-prequel, a see, pre-sequel. We've seen that happen before. Anyways, so yeah, this is it's just some cool stuff that we've seen come out from the Miyazaki interview. Again, this is, it's Google Translate, so I think we got a lot of solid information out of this. Some stuff could be a little off, but yeah, him talking about VR and the game that they did in VR, and then also saying Elden Ring isn't finished, saying that he wants to look outside. Very well could be an Armored Core game or something. That's one of those things that From Software made a lot of money back in the day off from Armored Core. So, and they haven't made one of those. Oh man, Armored Core and VR. I've been talking about that, and him talking about VR and possibly something outside of just the realm of horror games. I don't know. I might have called something there. So, anyways, go check out the rest of the YouTube channel, and like and subscribe this video if you made it this far. Hey, yeah, then there's that bell thing too. You can see when I upload stuff. So, yeah, another Let's Talk for the books. Go check out the rest of the channel for more Let's Talk, stream replays, and more. And also twitch.tv/Warwolf. I stream over there all the time. So, yeah, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for stopping by. And as always, I will see ya next time.